So today we're going to be talking about genetically modified organisms, what they are, how they're created, and whether or not we should be consuming these. What exactly are GMOs? The definition of a GMO is a genetically modified organism is any organism whose genetic material has been altered using genetic engineering and techniques. GMOs can be a variety of things, including livestock, pets, and more famously, crops. During the engineering of GMOs, new genes can be introduced, or certain genes can be enhanced, altered, or knocked out if these are genes that are known to cause issues. The three types of GMOs are mostly created through selective breeding, mutagenesis, and genetic engineering. Selective breeding happened when early plant breeders looked for and crossbred plants that had the characteristics they wanted. They have crossed plants within a species and across species beginning thousands of years ago. Traditional breeding of different grass species led to the development over time of modern corn from its ancestors. And today's bread wheat was created by crossing over time at least 11 different species. And this is also used in animals. As you can see, the wolf on top has been selectively bred into the little sausage dog, which are now our pets. Moving on to mutagenesis. Beginning in the 1920s, breeders started seeking more diversity than they were able to achieve through selective breeding to create new traits. They began to make changes in plant DNA by exposing seeds to chemicals or gamma irradiation and then selecting the plants that displayed the traits they wanted. More than 3,200 varieties of commonly consumed plant products have been developed using mutagenesis, including varieties of red grapefruit, bananas, and peanuts. This goes along with the central dogma, which basically is DNA makes RNA, RNA makes proteins, change the DNA, change the crop. Finally, we have genetic engineering, and this was created in the late 20th century through advances in technology that have enabled us to expand the genetic diversity of crops. For years, university, government, and company scientists intensively researched and refined this process. A major result has been genetically modified seeds that maintain or increase the yield of crops while requiring less land and fewer inputs, both of which lessen the impact of agriculture on the environment and reduce costs for farmers. So, like most things that human beings do, we have created GMOs because of money. And through GMOs, we have crops that have reduced costs of food and drug production. They have a longer shelf life, so if food can last on the shelves longer, not as much has to be thrown away, which means less money is wasted. We can also have increased crop yields, and if farmers are able to grow more crops, then that's more food for everyone, and it's also more money in their pockets. Also, there are enhanced nutritional values and even a higher quality of food, and food that's a higher quality can be sold for more money. Besides financial reasons, there are also health benefits to utilizing genetically modified organisms. These benefits include less pesticide needed, and when less chemicals need to be sprayed in the air, that's always a good thing. Along with that, we can create foods that have a more of a natural resistance to pests and disease. Moving away from pesticide, there are certain medicinal foods that can be created or altered genetically, and they can be used as vaccines or other medicines. And to go along with that, there is a potato that is genetically modified that has a trait that causes less of a cancer-causing substance to be released when it is fried. Let's move on to GMOs that we can find in the United States. And corn is a big one. So many products are made from corn in America, which is why scientists have created BT corn. BT corn is a GMO corn that produces proteins that are toxic to certain insect pests, but not to humans, pets livestock, or other animals. So basically, this corn has a pesticide that it creates naturally, which has no effect on us, our animals, or pets. These are the same types of proteins that organic farmers use to control insect pests, and they do not harm anyone, like I said earlier. This in turn reduces the need for spraying insecticides while still preventing insect damage. A lot of GMO corn goes into processed foods and drinks. Most of it is used to feed livestock like cows and poultry. So there's a very good chance that you have never consumed any of this corn unless you were eating your livestock's food for some reason. Let's move on to everybody's favorite side, potatoes. Everyone in the world eats French fries. So let's talk about a little why scientists would genetically modify potatoes. The same as corn, they have done this to help them resist insect pests and disease, and like I said earlier, the less pesticide that is sprayed into the environment, the better it is for everyone. These potatoes also resist bruising and browning, which in turn will have financial consequences. Less food will be thrown away based on its appearance, even though there's nothing wrong with a bruised or brown potato. Typically, shoppers will buy ones that look healthier. These potatoes also produce lower levels of acrylamide when they are cooked. Acrylamide can cause nerve damage in large quantities, so the less of that substance that we have released, the better it is for everyone. These potatoes also have improved quantities of vitamin A and E, and there are research teams have found that a single serving of these lab-engineered potatoes has the potential to provide as much as 42% of a child's recommended daily intake. So we've heard about the benefits of GMOs, but how do we go about creating GMOs? Well, the process begins by identifying a desired trait, whether it be resistance to an insect or the ability to tolerate drought conditions, or as in the potatoes, the ability to lack bruising. These genes are searched for in other organisms, whether they be plants or microbes, and once an organism is found that exhibits these traits they want to express in the genetically modified plant, they are isolated. Once that trait is isolated, the next step in the process is to move that gene into the crop that we want it to have. From there, the plant is extensively tested, and researchers look for differences between the genetically modified plant and its conventional counterpart. Plants that do not perform are not selected to move through the development process and will not reach the market. More than 75 different studies are performed on genetically modified crops to ensure they are safe for people, animals, and the environment. Data is reviewed by up to 3 regulatory agencies in the U.S., the USDA, the EPA, and the FDA. The genetically modified plant must be approved by these agencies before it can be commercialized. Global regulatory agencies in more than 75 countries have reviewed the safety of genetically modified crops and have found no risk. Let's dive a little bit deeper into these regulations to determine if these foods really are safe for us to consume. The first step in being regulated involves the Food and Drug Administration, or the FDA. The FDA makes sure that foods that are GMOs or have GMO ingredients meet the same strict safety standards as all other foods. FDA sets and enforces food safety standards that those who produce, process, store, ship, or sell food must follow, no matter how the foods are created. It's not just the FDA that is involved in the creation and regulation of genetically modified organisms. The Environmental Protection Agency also has a say in these. And what the EPA does is it regulates the safety of the substances that protect GMO plants, referred to as PIPs, or Plant Incorporated Protectants. These are in some GMO plants to make them resistant to insects and disease. The EPA monitors all other types of pesticides that are used on crops, including GMO and non-GMO crops. The USDA Animal and Plant Health Inspection Service protects agriculture in the United States against pests and disease. They set regulations to make sure GMO plants are not harmful to other plants, and USDA's Biotechnology Regulatory Service implements these regulations. All of these agencies collaborate together to help ensure food developers understand the importance of safe food supply and the rules they need to follow when creating new plants. Throughout all of this testing and regulations, there has never been any evidence that GMOs are unsafe to consume. There could be risks associated with a specific new gene introduced, which is why each crop with a new characteristic introduced by genetic modification is subject to close scrutiny. Since the first widespread commercialization of GM produce 18 years ago, there has been no evidence of ill effects linked to the consumption of any approved genetically modified crop. There is no published evidence to support the hypothesis that consumption of genetically engineered foods has caused higher U.S. rates of obesity or type 2 diabetes. There has never been a relationship found between consumption of genetically engineered foods and the increase in prevalence of food allergies. There has also been no link found between eating genetically engineered foods and the presence of autism spectrum disorder. All in all, there has never been any published evidence that GMO foods generate unique gene or protein fragments that would affect the body in any way. These are the references I have used to aid me in creating this PowerPoint. I hope you found this interesting and may have learned a thing or two about GMO foods and why they are created. Thank you.